Imagine standing in a place so cold that your breath freezes before you even notice you're breathing. A place where the wind can reach over 200 miles per hour, where the nearest human being might be hundreds of miles away, and where beneath your feet lies nearly 3 miles of solid ice. At first glance, Antarctica looks lifeless, just endless white. No cities, no forests, no roads, nothing. But appearances can be deceiving, because underneath that frozen surface, there is another world, an entire continent hidden below the ice. Scientists have discovered mountain ranges larger than the Alps, rivers flowing beneath glaciers, hundreds of hidden lakes, and landscapes that have remained untouched for millions of years. Some discoveries are accepted science, others remain complete mysteries. Old maps appear to show Antarctica before it froze. Satellite images reveal strange geometric mountains that some believe resemble pyramids. World War II sent secret military expeditions toward its frozen coast, and for decades, conspiracy theories have claimed that something beneath the ice was never meant to be found. Most of those theories are probably wrong, but here's the strange part. The real Antarctica is already more unbelievable than most conspiracy theories, because almost every year, scientists discover something beneath the ice that nobody expected. So tonight, we're separating fact from fiction to answer one question. What is Antarctica really hiding? If aliens visited Earth tomorrow, Antarctica would probably be the place they believed humans had never touched. It covers almost 14 million square kilometers, making it the 5th largest continent on Earth. It is larger than Europe, larger than Australia, nearly twice the size of the United States. Yet fewer people live there than in a small village. There are no permanent cities, no highways, no shopping centers, no airports serving regular passengers, only temporary research stations scattered across an ocean of ice. During winter, many of these stations become completely isolated. For months, aircraft cannot land, ships cannot reach them. The people living there are effectively cut off from the rest of humanity. But isolation isn't Antarctica's greatest feature. Its greatest feature is what lies beneath. The Antarctic ice sheet contains nearly 70% of all the fresh water on Earth. At its thickest point, the ice reaches almost 4.8 kilometers deep. Imagine placing New York City's tallest skyscraper beneath it. It still wouldn't reach the surface, and that enormous weight presses down on an ancient continent that has been hidden for millions of years. For a long time, scientists believed Antarctica was relatively simple, just frozen rock beneath endless ice. They were wrong, very wrong, because the deeper radar technology looked, the stranger Antarctica became. In the 20th century, scientists developed radar systems capable of doing something remarkable. Instead of looking at the surface, they could see through the ice itself. What they found completely changed our understanding of Antarctica. Underneath the ice, there wasn't a flat wasteland. There was another continent, a living geological landscape. Towering mountain ranges stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Deep valleys cut across the continent. Ancient river systems still shape the bedrock below. Some of these rivers continue flowing today, hidden beneath kilometers of ice. Then came another astonishing discovery. Lakes. Not one, not 10, hundreds. Today, scientists have identified more than 400 subglacial lakes beneath Antarctica. The most famous is Lake Vostok. It lies beneath almost 4 kilometers of ice, completely sealed off from the outside world for perhaps 15 million years. Think about that for a moment. Long before humans evolved, before mammoths, before the ice ages, this lake was already isolated. It has existed as its own ecosystem for longer than human history can comprehend. Naturally, scientists became obsessed with reaching it, but drilling into Lake Vostok wasn't simple. If researchers contaminated the lake with modern bacteria, they could permanently destroy one of Earth's most pristine environments. After decades of planning, samples were finally collected, and while no prehistoric monsters emerged from the darkness, researchers found something almost as incredible: microorganisms, life. Organisms surviving in complete darkness, under crushing pressure, in temperatures below freezing. Life had adapted to conditions once thought impossible. That discovery changed more than Antarctic science. It changed how scientists think about life elsewhere in the universe. If organisms can survive beneath nearly 5 kilometers of Antarctic ice, Perhaps they could survive beneath the frozen oceans of Jupiter's moon Europa or Saturn's moon Enceladus. Suddenly, Antarctica wasn't just helping us understand Earth. It was becoming a model for discovering alien life. And yet, Lake Vostok was only one secret, because another discovery suggested Antarctica had once been something almost impossible to imagine. Not frozen, not white, but green. When most people imagine Antarctica, they picture endless snow, blinding white horizons, temperatures colder than Mars. But if you could travel back far enough in time, you wouldn't recognize it millions of years ago. Antarctica was one of the greenest places on Earth. Dense forests covered large parts of the continent. Rivers carved through valleys. Rain fell instead of snow. And for millions of years, life flourished. This isn't speculation, it's geology. Over the last century, scientists have uncovered fossilized tree trunks, ancient pollen, leaves and roots across different parts of Antarctica. Some trees were nearly 20 meters tall. Entire forests once stood where today there is nothing but ice. Even more surprising, those forests survived months of complete darkness because Antarctica was already close to the South Pole. For half the year, the sun barely rose, yet life adapted. Plants evolved to survive months without sunlight before exploding back to life each summer. It was a world unlike anything alive today. Then came an even stranger discovery: fossils of dinosaurs, not just one species, many, including armored dinosaurs, duck-billed dinosaurs, and enormous predators related to the ancestors of Tyrannosaurus. Imagine standing where emperor penguins now walk, while giant reptiles hunted through forests stretching toward the horizon. It sounds impossible, yet every fossil tells the same story. Antarctica wasn't always the end of the world. It was once part of it, but everything changed. People often imagine Antarctica freezing overnight, as if some unimaginable catastrophe suddenly covered the continent in ice. Reality was slower, far slower. Around 34 million years ago, Earth itself began changing. The continents continued drifting apart. One particular separation would transform the planet forever. Australia moved north. South America separated from Antarctica. Those movements opened deep ocean passages around the continent. For the first time, water could circulate completely around Antarctica without interruption. Scientists call it the Antarctic circumpolar current. Today, it is the strongest ocean current on Earth. It acts like a giant frozen moat. Warm, tropical water can no longer reach Antarctica. Instead, icy currents isolate the continent from the rest of the planet. Temperatures slowly collapsed. Snow stopped melting during summer. Each winter added another layer. Then another. Century after century, the ice became thicker. Forest after forest disappeared beneath glaciers. Mountains vanished, rivers froze. Entire ecosystems were buried beneath kilometers of ice. And eventually, Antarctica became what we know today, a frozen prison preserving an ancient world beneath it. Ironically, that ice also became the greatest time capsule on Earth. Everything trapped underneath remained protected, waiting. Then history introduced one of its greatest mysteries. In 1513, an Ottoman admiral named Piri Reis completed a world map. Most of it looked ordinary: Africa, Europe, South America. But one section refused to stop raising questions. Some researchers claimed the southern coastline resembled Antarctica. Not Antarctica covered by ice, but Antarctica without it. If true, that would be impossible. Modern explorers didn't officially discover Antarctica until more than 300 years later. Even stranger, ice beneath the modern continent hides the coastline itself. So how could anyone have drawn it? The simplest explanation is that they didn't officially discover Antarctica until more than 300 years later. Even stranger, ice beneath the modern continent hides the coastline itself. So how could anyone have drawn it? The simplest explanation is that they didn't. Most historians believe the map simply represents South America, distorted by inaccurate navigation. And honestly, that explanation makes sense. But mystery researchers noticed something else. Piri Reis himself wrote that he copied information from much older maps that no longer exist. That sentence alone became the foundation for decades of speculation. If those older maps were real, who created them? Some suggested ancient Phoenician sailors. Others proposed forgotten civilizations incapable of global navigation long before recorded history. Then another map appeared, created in 1531 by the French cartographer Laurent Fine. Again, some believed it showed Antarctica before it was frozen. Again, historians disagreed. Yet the debate refused to disappear because these maps represented something larger than geography. They represented a terrifying possibility. Not that Antarctica had been discovered early, but that human history might contain entire chapters we have forgotten, entire civilizations erased by time. Is there evidence for that? Not really, but Antarctica has a strange effect on people. Every mystery seems possible there. Every unanswered question feels larger, and soon those questions attracted one of history's darkest governments. 1930s, Europe stood on the edge of catastrophe. Nazi Germany was expanding rapidly. War was becoming inevitable. But while much of the world watched Europe, Germany quietly looked south. In December 1938, the expedition ship Schwabenland left Hamburg. Officially, its mission was practical. Germany wanted to survey Antarctic territory, study whaling resources, and establish future economic claims. Aircraft launched from the ship photographed thousands of square kilometers of coastline. Crews dropped aluminum markers stamped with the Nazi swastika across the snow. The Germans named the region. Everything about the expedition appeared completely normal, at least officially. But history has a habit of creating mysteries from incomplete records. After World War II, rumors began spreading. People claimed the Nazis hadn't simply explored Antarctica. They had discovered something, a hidden entrance beneath the ice, an underground refuge, even advanced technology. No credible evidence has ever confirmed those claims. Historians continue to view the expedition as a geopolitical mission, not a supernatural one. Yet one question still lingers. If Antarctica held no strategic value, why did multiple world powers become so interested in it within just a few years? And why, almost immediately after the war ended, did the United States launch the largest Antarctic expedition ever attempted? That is where the mystery becomes even stranger. World War II had barely ended. Cities across Europe were still in ruins. Millions of soldiers were returning home. Most nations were trying to rebuild. But in late 1946, the United States announced something unexpected: a massive expedition to Antarctica. Officially, it was called Operation High Jump. On paper, the mission sounded straightforward: train military personnel, test equipment in extreme cold, map unexplored areas, expand scientific knowledge. But the scale of the operation surprised almost everyone. More than 4,700 personnel, 13 ships, dozens of aircraft, icebreakers, support vessels, even an aircraft carrier. For what was supposedly a training exercise, it looked more like a military deployment. Leading the mission was one of the most respected polar explorers in history, Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd. Byrd had already flown over both the North and South Poles. If anyone understood Antarctica, it was him. The expedition lasted only a few months before returning home. Official reports described the mission as largely successful. Thousands of aerial photographs were taken. Large sections of coastline were mapped. Scientists collected valuable geological and meteorological data. Those are the historical facts. But outside official records, another story began spreading. Rumors claimed the operation ended earlier than expected because something had gone wrong. Some spoke of aircraft disappearing. Others claimed American forces encountered technology beyond anything seen during World War II. Stories grew more dramatic with every passing year. Flying discs, underground entrances, weapons unlike anything built by humans. None of those claims have ever been supported by credible evidence. No military documents confirm them. No verified witnesses describe such events. Yet the legends refused to disappear, because Antarctica had already become the perfect setting for impossible stories. And one man stood at the center of almost all of them: Richard Byrd. Few explorers have inspired more myths than Admiral Byrd. His real achievements were extraordinary enough. He led multiple Antarctic expeditions, helped map vast regions of the continent, and became one of the world's greatest polar explorers. But decades after his expeditions, stories began appearing online. One story claimed Byrd had written a secret diary. According to this alleged journal, one flight over Antarctica took an impossible turn. His instruments supposedly malfunctioned. The endless white landscape disappeared, and beneath the ice, he found something extraordinary: a warm valley, green forests, animals. Then strange aircraft approached his plane. Machines unlike anything he had ever seen. According to the legend, they escorted him to an underground civilization, a hidden kingdom known as Agartha. Its inhabitants were said to possess technology far beyond humanity's. Instead of attacking Byrd, they supposedly delivered a warning. Human civilization was becoming too dangerous. Nuclear weapons threatened not only life on Earth's surface, but their hidden world as well. It is a fascinating story. There's just one problem: no reliable historical evidence supports it. Researchers who studied Byrd's genuine journals found no verified reference to such an encounter. Most historians consider the so-called secret diary a fabrication created decades later. Yet the story spread across books, websites, videos, and documentaries, not because it was proven, but because people wanted it to be true. And in Antarctica, belief often grows faster than evidence. Long before Antarctica entered the picture, people imagined another world beneath their feet. Ancient cultures across Asia, Europe, and the Americas all told stories about underground kingdoms, places hidden from ordinary humanity, civilizations that survived while empires above them rose and fell. One of the most famous names is Agartha. Descriptions vary from story to story. Some portray it as a peaceful civilization guided by wisdom. Others describe unimaginable technology. Some even claim its inhabitants have watched humanity for thousands of years. Modern conspiracy theories merge these ancient legends with Antarctica. If there were entrances to a hidden world, where better to hide them than beneath nearly 5 kilometers of ice. Remote, uninhabited, almost impossible to explore. The theory became even more popular because Antarctica still contains enormous regions that humans have barely studied. But geology tells a different story. Radar has mapped much of the bedrock beneath the ice. Scientists have identified mountains, valleys, lakes, and rivers. None of those surveys have revealed enormous underground cities. That doesn't stop the legends, because mysteries often survive precisely where certainty ends. And Antarctica still has many unanswered questions, just not necessarily the ones conspiracy theories focus on. The greatest mystery may not be hidden civilizations. It may be the incredible life that somehow survived beneath one of the harshest environments on Earth. When people think about Antarctica, they usually imagine a lifeless continent. Nothing grows, nothing survives, nothing moves. Reality is far stranger. Beneath the ice, scientists have discovered entire microbial ecosystems, tiny organisms living in total darkness, without sunlight, without plants, without fresh air. Some survive by feeding on minerals trapped inside ancient rocks. Others appear to use chemical reactions rather than sunlight for energy. These discoveries completely changed biology, because if life can exist here, it could exist almost anywhere. Mars, Europa, Enceladus, places once believed completely dead, suddenly became possible homes for microscopic life. In other words, Antarctica may be the closest thing we have to another planet without ever leaving Earth. And perhaps that's why scientists continue returning, not because they expect to find lost civilizations, but because every expedition teaches us something about how life itself survives against impossible odds. Yet despite all these discoveries, one question still remains. If Antarctica is simply another continent, why has it become one of the most protected places on Earth? That answer begins in 1959, with a treaty unlike any other in history. In December 1959, representatives from 12 nations gathered in Washington, D.C. The timing was remarkable. The Cold War was intensifying. The United States and the Soviet Union were building nuclear arsenals. Governments were preparing for conflicts that could reshape the planet. Yet somehow, these rival nations agreed on Antarctica. They signed what became known as the Antarctic Treaty. The agreement declared that Antarctica would be used for peaceful purposes. Military bases were prohibited. Weapons testing was prohibited. Nuclear explosions and the disposal of radioactive waste were prohibited. Scientific research would remain open. Information would be shared. And territorial disputes would be placed on hold. On paper, it was an extraordinary achievement, a continent protected from war, a place where scientists from enemy nations could work side by side. But to conspiracy theorists, the agreement looked suspicious. Why would governments that trusted each other with almost nothing suddenly cooperate over Antarctica? What had they discovered? What were they protecting? And what were they trying to keep ordinary people from seeing? Those questions became even more powerful because of one popular misconception. Many people believe Antarctica is completely forbidden, that nobody can visit, that planes are banned from crossing it, and that armed governments guard its coastline. But that isn't true. Tourists visit Antarctica every year. Private expeditions cross sections of the continent. Aircraft fly to research stations. Mountaineers climb its peaks. The continent is difficult to reach, but it is not completely closed. What is true is that activities there are heavily regulated. Visitors must follow strict environmental rules. Researchers need permits for certain work. Wildlife cannot be disturbed. Historic sites cannot be damaged. Waste must be controlled. Some regions are specially protected because of their scientific or environmental value. To skeptics, these rules make sense. Antarctica is one of the most fragile environments on Earth. To believers, the restrictions are proof that something is being hidden, and this is why Antarctica remains so effective at producing conspiracy theories. Every regulation becomes a cover-up. Every military expedition becomes a secret war. Every mountain becomes a pyramid, and every unexplained shadow becomes something alive. The ice is only half of Antarctica's mystery. The other half lies in the ocean surrounding it. The Southern Ocean is cold, violent, and incredibly deep. Storms can appear without warning. Waves can rise like walls. Large sections remain difficult to study, even with modern technology. And wherever humans find dark water, they cannot explore. They imagine monsters. One of the most famous modern Antarctic legends is known as the Ningen. According to stories that spread through Japanese internet forums, crews aboard ships reported seeing a huge white creature moving through the Antarctic water. It was described as pale and smooth, sometimes with arms, sometimes with legs, sometimes with a face that looked almost human. Some versions claimed it was 20 or 30 meters long, a giant humanoid drifting silently beneath the ice. Photographs eventually appeared online, blurry shapes, white bodies beneath dark water, strange forms beside ships, but none provided reliable proof. Most were probably ice formations, whales, or manipulated images. The Ningen is almost certainly modern internet folklore, but the legend succeeded because the Southern Ocean already contains creatures that sound fictional. The colossal squid is real. It possesses some of the largest eyes in the animal kingdom. Hooks line parts of its tentacles. It lives in deep, cold water and is rarely seen alive. For centuries, sailors told stories of the Kraken, a giant creature powerful enough to seize a ship and drag it beneath the waves. Those stories were exaggerated, but they may have been inspired by encounters with real giant squid. And that creates an uncomfortable thought. If creatures once dismissed as myths turned out to exist, what else could be living in places we have barely explored? The honest answer is probably not a 30-meter humanoid, but it may still be something strange. Scientists regularly identify new marine species. Some survive around hydrothermal vents. Others live beneath ice shelves in total darkness. They do not need legends to be extraordinary. Reality has already created animals that produce their own light, survive crushing pressure, and live in water cold enough to kill a human within minutes. Maybe the real monsters of Antarctica are not giant humanoids. Maybe they are smaller, older, and far more alien than anything imagined online. For decades, people searched Antarctica for impossible things. Ancient cities, Nazi fortresses, underground kingdoms, flying machines. But while the world focused on those stories, scientists were uncovering mysteries that were real. Beneath the ice, water does not simply remain frozen in place. It moves. There are networks of subglacial rivers and lakes. Water flows from one hidden basin to another. Entire drainage systems operate beneath kilometers of ice, in complete darkness, without anyone on the surface being able to see them. Some lakes fill, others drain. The movement can cause the ice above them to rise or fall. It is almost as if Antarctica has a hidden circulatory system. Then there are the mountains. Deep beneath the East Antarctic ice sheet lies the Gamburtsev mountain range, a chain of mountains comparable in scale to major ranges on the surface. An entire mountain range, hidden longer than humanity has existed. Yet for millions of years, they remained completely buried. No human has stood directly on their peaks. No camera has photographed them in natural sunlight. We know them mainly through radar and gravity measurements. In other regions, scientists found vast valleys carved into the bedrock, ancient channels, landscapes that may have formed before Antarctica became fully frozen. Some of those landscapes may have remained preserved for millions of years, not ruins, not temples, but pieces of earth from another age. Then researchers drilled into subglacial environments and found life, microbes surviving without sunlight, organisms living beneath ice shelves, communities existing where scientists once assumed almost nothing could survive. In one case, a team drilled through nearly 900 meters of ice. Then they lowered a camera into the darkness below. The descent took minutes, nothing but black water. No light had ever reached this place. No current brought food from above. No reason for anything to be alive. The camera touched the seafloor, and there, attached to the rock, were animals, just sitting there, in the dark, waiting. Nobody knew they were there. Nobody expected them. They had no reason to exist, but they did. Life had survived far from open water and far from obvious sources of food. It was not supposed to be there, but it was. And this is the pattern that makes Antarctica so fascinating. Again and again, scientists predict emptiness. Then they find complexity. They expect frozen silence. Then they discover movement. They expect sterile water. Then they find life. The real Antarctica does not need secret civilizations to be mysterious. It contains mountain ranges nobody has seen, lakes isolated for millions of years, organisms living under impossible conditions, and landscapes older than human existence. The deeper we look, the less empty the continent becomes. Satellite images have transformed how people experience Antarctica. Anyone can now open a map, zoom into the continent, and search for anomalies. Dark openings, straight lines, perfect circles, unusual shadows, structures that appear artificial. Some images have become famous online. A rectangular opening in a mountain, a staircase leading into the ice, a metallic object half buried in snow, a face carved into a ridge, a pyramid rising from a frozen landscape. But satellite imagery can be deceptive. A mountain viewed from above may appear symmetrical because of light and shadow. A dark patch may look like an entrance when it is only exposed rock. Compression artifacts can create lines that do not exist in the original landscape. Images taken at different times may be stitched together. Snow can erase detail in one frame and exaggerate it in another. The human brain also has a powerful habit. It searches for recognizable patterns, faces in clouds, animals in rock formations, buildings in random geometry. This phenomenon is known as pareidolia. It does not mean every strange image is meaningless. Some discoveries genuinely begin with unexpected satellite data, but an unusual shape is not automatically evidence of a structure. It is a question, not an answer, and that difference is essential, because once people decide they are looking at a pyramid, every shadow becomes proof. Every scientific explanation becomes part of the cover-up, and the search for truth becomes a search for confirmation. The strongest mystery is not the one that ignores evidence. It is the one that survives after every reasonable explanation has been tested. So, is Antarctica hiding an ancient civilization? There is currently no reliable archaeological evidence that humans built cities there before the ice formed. The timing creates an enormous problem. Antarctica's major ice sheets began developing tens of millions of years before modern humans existed. No verified tools have been recovered, no confirmed walls, no inscriptions, no roads, no human remains, and no structure has been authenticated as artificial beneath the ice. Is there a secret Nazi base? No credible evidence has confirmed one. The German expedition was real. New Swabia was real. Operation High Jump was real. But the underground war belongs to legend. Did Admiral Byrd enter a hidden world? His real expeditions were extraordinary. The secret diary story is not considered reliable historical evidence. Does that mean Antarctica has no secrets? Not at all. It means its real secrets are different. Beneath the ice is a detailed record of Earth's climate. Tiny bubbles trapped inside ancient ice contain samples of the atmosphere from hundreds of thousands of years ago. They allow scientists to study how carbon dioxide, temperature, and climate changed long before modern industry. Beneath the ice are ecosystems isolated from the surface, organisms that may reveal how life survives in extreme environments. Beneath the ice are ancient landscapes. Some may preserve information about the breakup of continents. Others may help explain why Antarctica froze. And beneath the surrounding seafloor may be geological records that show how sea levels changed across millions of years. These discoveries matter far beyond Antarctica because the continent influences ocean currents, weather systems, and sea levels around the entire world. What happens there does not remain there. If large amounts of Antarctic ice disappear, coastlines thousands of miles away will change. Cities will face rising water. Ocean circulation may shift. Weather patterns may become less predictable. The greatest secret under the ice may not be something from humanity's past. It may be a warning about humanity's future. For most of history, unknown places existed beyond the edge of every map. Sailors imagined sea monsters. Explorers imagined lost kingdoms. Cartographers filled blank spaces with warnings. Then satellites arrived. The oceans were mapped. The continents were photographed. And the blank spaces began disappearing. But Antarctica remained different. We can see its surface. We can measure its ice. We can scan the ground beneath it. And still, most people will never stand there. Vast sections remain unvisited. The landscape beneath the ice remains unseen by human eyes. We know it through signals, models, and echoes returned by radar. Antarctica may not be forbidden, but it is still distant enough to feel forbidden. And perhaps that is why its legends remain so powerful. We want the pyramid to be real. We want the old maps to contain forgotten knowledge. We want Admiral Byrd to have found another world, because the alternative feels almost disappointing. Just ice, just rock, just empty space. But Antarctica is not empty. It contains forests turned to stone, mountains sealed in darkness, rivers moving where no sunlight reaches, animals surviving beneath floating ice, microbes living in conditions that resemble another planet, and a climate record that stretches far beyond recorded history. That is not less exciting than a conspiracy. It is more exciting because it is real. Throughout this story, we kept asking the same question. What is Antarctica hiding? But perhaps that was never the right question. We already know it is hiding another world. The real question is, how much of that world remains undiscovered? Because every new scan reveals another feature. Every expedition adds another piece. Every core drilled into the ice opens another chapter of Earth's history, And one day, the discovery that changes everything may not be a pyramid, a secret base, or a city beneath the ground. It may be something nobody imagined, something waiting in darkness beneath millions of years of ice. Antarctica has revealed many of its secrets, but not its final one. Do you believe Antarctica is simply the world's greatest natural archive? Or do you think something more is buried beneath the ice? Tell me your theory in the comments. And if you enjoy stories about lost worlds, dark history, and the mysteries that science still cannot fully explain, subscribe to the channel, because the next mystery may be even closer than you think. Until next time.